English can be incredibly confusing. There are so many words that my students mix up and get wrong. Affect with an A and affect with an E. Complementary with an I and complementary with an E. Today, I am going to teach you the 60 most confusing words in English. I'm going to clarify them for you. You're going to understand them so well that you don't even have to think anymore. It's a huge lesson, but when you get to the end of it, I promise you will feel so much more confident when speaking English. We're going to go through 24 verbs, 12 nouns, 12 adjectives, and 12 phrasal verbs. I'm going to explain them clearly with plenty of examples, and I'll even test you with a few little quizzes. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly when to say go and exactly when to say get. You'll know what it means to be uninterested versus disinterested. And you will know why shade and shadow are not the same thing. To make this even easier for you, I have created a beautiful ebook with the 60 most confusing words in English. It contains everything from this lesson, plus extra information. Download it now and keep it in case you need a refresher. To get it for free, just click on the link in the description box or scan the QR code there, enter your name and your email address, choose your English level, then you've signed up to my mailing list and the ebook will arrive directly in your inbox. Okay, let's get started with the lesson. Pair number 1, the floor versus the ground. Let's clear any confusion once and for all. The floor refers to the flat surface of a room that people can stand or walk on. It is usually inside. The ground refers to the surface of the earth outside. It might be soil, concrete, grass, and so on. Floor, generally inside. Ground, generally outside. For example, we sat on the floor in the living room and ate pizza. We sat on the ground under a tree and had a picnic. Floor also refers to the levels of a building. First floor, second floor, for example. And here's where it gets confusing. In British English, we use the term ground floor for the floor at the same level as the ground or earth outside. My office is on the ground floor. Notice that I use the preposition on, not in. Note that the ground floor is called the first floor in North American English. Another point of confusion. Now, I said the floor is generally inside, but it isn't always inside. We also use floor to refer to the surface of the earth in a forest, ocean, or cave, for example. The forest floor was covered in moss. The floor of the cave was wet and slippery. Sometimes we will use ground and floor interchangeably. For example, my ice cream fell on the floor. My ice cream fell on the ground. Now, you will hear English speakers using floor outside. My ice cream fell on the floor, for example. But what I've just explained should give you a general indication. Okay, our next pair is journey versus trip. We also need to talk about travel too. These are words that my students mix up all the time, so let's clear up the confusion. Let's start with travel. As a noun, it refers to the general activity of traveling, going to a different place. It's often uncountable, so we don't use a or the. I can't say a travel. An example, people say that travel broadens the mind. It can also be used in the plural. For example, Eloise was telling me about her travels in Italy. This implies a variety of places and experiences. We can't say that sentence in the singular. It would not be correct to say, Eloise was telling me about her travel. Lastly, you will hear travel used in many compound nouns, like travel insurance, or travel sickness. Let's move on to journey. We use journey to focus on the act of moving from one place to another, and it's often used for longer distances. The journey to Paris will take about 3 hours. Or, how was your journey? This is like, how was your drive? A trip is when you go somewhere and then return, usually staying for a short amount of time. For example, I've just been on a trip to Rome. Or, tell me about your trip. We can often talk about going on a day trip, a business trip, a camping trip, or a shopping trip. For example, Tim's away on a business trip, on a trip. So, travel is the general activity or experience. Journey is the act of getting from A to B, and trip is the visit to a place. One final example. Travel is my passion. I recently went on a trip to Edinburgh, and the train journey from London took 4 hours. Here's some homework. See if you can write a sentence like that with all 3 words in the comments. Right, pair number 3 is opportunity versus possibility. An opportunity is a situation that allows you to do something you want. It tends to be positive. We often say you have the opportunity to do something. For example, when I was at uni, I had the opportunity to spend a semester in Spain. Another example, the internship was a wonderful opportunity for me. A possibility is something that might happen or might be true. For example, have you considered the possibility that it might rain tomorrow? Or there's a strong possibility that the plan might fail. Let's see an example with both words. There's a possibility that my company will expand next year, and if it does, I might have the opportunity to move abroad. We also use possibility to talk about the different options available to us. For example, what kind of food do you want? The possibilities are endless. Our next pair of confusing words is, I want you to think about how you would pronounce them. We have receipt and recipe. Let's see if you can put the right word in these sentences. I wanted to bake a cake, so I asked my mum for a... I bought a cake from the shop, and after I paid, I got a... Have a think. In the first gap, we have recipe, and of course in the second, receipt. Now, my students are not just confused about the meanings of these words, but by their pronunciation too. Receipt has 2 syllables. We stress the second one. The P is silent. Ignore the P. Receipt. Receipt. It's a really stupid word. It could be so much simpler. A receipt is often a piece of paper, or now more often an electronic document that shows that you've paid for something. In a shop, you might hear, would you like a receipt? Or you might say, I'd like to return this, but I've lost my receipt. Recipe, on the other hand, has 3 syllables. Receipt 2, recipe 3. We stress the first one, and the second is a schwa. Recipe. Recipe. I know it's tempting to say receipt, but it's recipe. It's a list of ingredients and instructions telling you how to cook something. For example, have you got a good recipe for shepherd's pie? Okay, pair number 5 is history versus story. History is uncountable. It's a description or study of facts or real events that happened in the past. Notice that we either don't pronounce the O in history, or we pronounce it as a schwa. History or history. So that can be 3 or 2 syllables. I prefer 2. History. It's more efficient. An example, I'm really interested in the history of France. Or the invention of electricity was a turning point in human history. Story is a countable noun. A story is a description of events that can be real or imagined, and we often tell stories to entertain people or share our experiences. It's pronounced with a long or sound. Story. An example, my dad used to tell me bedtime stories about dragons and princesses. Here's another example with the words together. I always thought the story of King Arthur was just a myth, but it turns out some parts might actually be rooted in history. Okay, our final pair, number 6, is shade versus shadow. Quite tricky. Shade is a darker, cooler area where direct sunlight is blocked. The focus is on the area, not the shape created, and we often talk about shade as a way to escape the heat or sunlight. Shade is uncountable. Some examples? Let's sit in the shade under that tree. Or, I moved my chair into the shade to avoid getting sunburnt. A shadow is a dark shape that appears on a surface when something blocks the light. It's the silhouette of an object or person. The focus is more on the shape or the outline, and shadow is countable. Shade uncountable, shadow countable. Some examples. Your shadow's so long in the evening light. Did you notice that when you were a child? That you would walk in the evening and see that your shadow looked like a giant. My dad's a scientist, and I remember being very young, probably 4, and asking him why, and he drew me a diagram. Another example, the tree cast an interesting shadow on the wall behind it. Something casts a shadow. That's the verb we use. So, shade is all about the darker, cooler area where light is blocked. Shadow is the dark shape created when something blocks the light. Okay, it's quiz time. Are you ready to test what you've learnt? Let's begin with number 1. When the fireworks started, everyone sat on the and looked up at the sky. Is it floor or ground? It is ground, because we don't set off fireworks inside. Remember to share your score in the comments section. Number 2, my last business was exhausting. I visited 3 cities in 3 days. Is it travel or trip? It should be trip. Number 3, there's a real that the event will be cancelled due to bad weather. Is it opportunity or possibility? There's a possibility. 4, I tried to make paella last night, but I think I read the wrong. It tasted awful. Recipe or receipt? It should be the recipe. And our final question, number 5. We moved into the because it was getting too hot. Is it shade or shadow? It should be shade. You're moving into the cool, darker area. Okay, how did you do? What was your score? Let me know in the comments. I'd also love to know which of those pairs you mix up the most often. Let's get started with the first 2 verbs. And they might look simple, but people confuse them a lot. Get and go. First, let's think about travel. Get focuses more on arriving at or reaching a destination. For example, when I get to Edinburgh, I'll give you a call. This means when I arrive. Or, could you tell me how to get to Edinburgh Castle? How do I reach the castle? Go, on the other hand, focuses more on the journey and moving from one place to another. For example, I usually go to Edinburgh by train. I travel. Or you'll go past a great coffee shop on your way to the castle. So, get focuses on arrival, go focuses on the journey. That's not so difficult. But get and go have many meanings. They also mean become or change state. But with this meaning, they collocate with different adjectives. Look at this sentence and choose get or go to complete the gaps. As people. Older, their hair often grey. What do you think? Well, the first gap is get older. And the second is goes grey. Let's look at each meaning in more detail now. We tend to use get with adjectives like light, dark, old, and late. For example, in winter in the UK, it gets dark early. It becomes dark early. Or it's getting late. We need to leave. We also use get with ill, sick, and tired. I got ill while I was on holiday. I became ill. Now we usually use go with colours, meaning to change or turn from one colour to another. We just saw the example go grey, when hair turns from one colour to grey. Another example, I was so cold that my fingers started to go blue. We wouldn't say get blue. And we use go with some changes that are generally seen as negative. For example, go bad for food, go wrong, or even go bald, although I don't think going bald is negative. An example, this meat stinks, it's gone bad. Or he went bald in his 40s. All right, pair number 2, notice versus realise. Notice is generally used when you see or hear something and become aware of it. I noticed that the leaves had changed colour on my morning walk. I saw the difference in colour. Realise is connected to understanding. To realise, we need to make a connection in our mind. I realised that autumn was on its way. I connected the change in colour of the leaves to the change in seasons. Look at the verbs together now. I noticed the crack in the vase, but I didn't realise how fragile the vase was until it broke. I noticed the crack, I saw it. I didn't realise how fragile the vase was, I didn't understand. Another example, we noticed the thunder in the distance and realised we needed to leave the beach. We heard the thunder and we understood we needed to leave. So, noticing is more about perception. Realising is more about understanding. Okay, let's move on to the next 2 words. We have rob and steal. Both verbs refer to taking something without permission, illegally. Now, in a basic sense, rob is used with a place or a person, and steal is used with a thing. For example, someone robbed the bank yesterday. What did they steal? They stole a lot of cash. Or, I was robbed in broad daylight. They stole my wallet and phone. So a really common mistake I hear my students make with the verb to steal is this. They stole me my wallet. With the meaning of take something from somebody, we don't use a personal pronoun directly after steal. So stole me something is not correct. We can say steal something from somebody, something, or somewhere. For example, they stole my wallet from me, or they stole my wallet from my bag. When we talk about certain buildings, especially houses, we usually use burgle or break into rather than rob. For example, we got burgled, or our house got broken into. They stole some jewelry. So remember, the most common collocations are rob a place or a person, and steal something from somebody, and burgle a house. Okay, our next pair of verbs are win and beat. Here's the difference. You win something. You win a game, a match, a competition, a prize. But you tend to beat someone or a team. For example, Sinner won the match. He beat Djokovic. Or Clara won a prize for her singing. She beat several other competitors. Simple enough, right? But it's not just the verbs that confuse my students. It's which prepositions to use. Let's think about football. That's something I don't say a lot. I've heard so many students say that their team won with another, trying to say that their team beat another. That's not quite right, so let's learn the correct prepositions. You can say, Liverpool won 5-0 against West Ham. So that's win plus score plus against. Won 5-0 against. Notice how I said nil, not 0 or nothing. Another example, Liverpool won by 5-0 against West Ham. Or they beat West Ham by 5 goals. So you can win against someone or a team, or you can describe the score with win by a margin, 5 goals, to a specific score, 0. Okay, moving on. Our next pair of verbs sound very similar, and in writing, even fluent speakers of English get confused about which one to use. I will admit, I have to double check when I use these. There's just something about this pair. They are affect and effect. Affect, effect. Can you hear the difference? Both are stressed on the second syllable, but the first syllable in affect with an A is pronounced with a schwa sound, that very lazy sound that takes little effort to make. Affect. The first syllable in effect, spelt with an E, is often pronounced with an I sound. Effect. Effect. But you'll also hear people use a schwa, so they could sound the same. Affect and effect. So that's clear, but how do we use them? Affect with an A is usually a verb meaning to influence or change something. A lack of sleep often affects your ability to concentrate, or the loud music didn't affect my sleep. Effect with an E is usually a noun, not always, we will discuss that, and it refers to the change that is caused. For example, one effect of eating chocolate cake is that I instantly feel happier. Or my teacher's words of encouragement had a lasting effect on me. To have an effect on somebody is a common collocation. Here's another example using both this time. Gloomy weather affects my mood, but sunny weather has a positive effect on me. See the difference? But we're not finished, because effect with an E can also be used as a verb. To effect something means to make or cause something to happen, and it's formal. It collocates strongly with nouns like change and improvement. For example, the new policy is expected to effect a significant change in the education system, to cause a change. To sum up, affect with A means to influence or change something. Effect as a verb means to make something happen, and effect as a noun refers to the change that is caused. Okay, let's move on to look at our final pair. We have the single word verb wake and the phrasal verb wake up. Wake and wake up have similar meanings: to stop sleeping or to make someone else stop sleeping. So is there any difference? Well, they can often be used interchangeably. For example, we wake at 7. We wake up at 7. Or my parents used to wake me every morning before school. Or my parents used to wake me up every morning before school. And the noise of the storm woke us. The noise of the storm woke us up. Now, it's more common to use wake up. Wake on its own sounds more formal. There are many verb-phrasal verb pairs in which the particle doesn't have much effect on the meaning. Have you ever wondered about hurry and hurry up, or stand and stand up? Wake up can also mean to make someone feel awake. For example, going outside in the fresh air helps wake me up. It helps me feel more awake. Or, I need a strong cup of coffee to wake up in the morning. We wouldn't say fresh air or coffee wake me. And what do you say if someone's asleep and you want them to stop sleeping? We say, wake up. Wake up, we're going to be late. We don't shout, wake at someone if we want them to stop sleeping. Similarly, in a hotel, we might ask reception for a wake-up call, not a wake call. Okay, we've covered all 12 commonly confused verbs. Now, I want to do a little quiz to see what you remember. Here are 5 sentences for you to complete with the correct verb. Make sure you conjugate the verbs. That means to use them in the correct form. Let me know your score in the comments. I will read through them, but use the pause button if you need more time. 1. It's starting to light earlier now that spring is coming. Is it get or go? Well done if you chose get. Remember, get collocates with light and dark with a similar meaning to become. 2. If I'm feeling tired, splashing cold water on my face helps to... Should it be wake me or wake me up? I hope you used up. We use wake me up here. We use wake up to mean feel more awake or more lively. 3. Someone tried to my camera when I was on the train. Rob or steal? If you said rob, that wouldn't be right. Steal is the correct answer. You steal something like a camera, but you rob a person or place. I was robbed on the train. They stole my camera. Number 4. When I went outside this afternoon, the daffodils were in bloom. Did you notice or did you realize? It is noticed. We can use notice to mean see. And then finally, number 5, there are 2 gaps in this sentence. It's a tricky one. The new government immediately economic changes which positively the job market. Where do we want affect with an A? And where do we put effect with an E? Well, the first is effected with E, made economic changes happen. And the second is affected with an A, impacted the job market. Let's get started with number 1. Hear versus listen. We use hear to describe the process of sounds coming into your ears, whether you want them to or not, and that's the key. For example, did you hear those dogs barking? The noise kept me up all night. No, I had earplugs in, so I couldn't hear anything. We also use hear with the meaning of to be told something. For example, Emma got the job. So I've heard. So I've been told. Now, listening, on the other hand, is intentional. When you listen, you have to focus and pay attention. For example, I'm listening to a really good podcast at the moment. Or, he told me what the plan was, but I wasn't really listening. So, hearing, no effort. Listening, intentional, requires effort. It's that simple. Number 2, we have see, look, and watch. Or I should really say see, look at, and watch. I get questions about these verbs all the time. See is similar to hear. It's the process of noticing something, but this time with the eyes. No effort required. For example, we could see the Eiffel Tower from our hotel window. Or I didn't see the person who snatched my phone. Look at means to move your eyes in a particular direction in order to see something. For example, look at that man dressed as a horse. Or look at me when I'm talking to you, please. The action of looking is generally quite short. Watch, on the other hand, is when you look at something or somebody for a longer period of time. What you're watching will usually be moving, like a film, a YouTube video, a play, or a concert. The action generally involves more effort. For example, watch how I play it and then you can try and copy. Or, did you watch the game last night? Now, you can see or watch a film, but be careful, we don't see television, we watch television. For example, we're going to watch or we're going to see Gladiator 2 if you fancy joining us. Or, I rarely watch TV these days, not I rarely see TV. Okay, number 3, fit and suit. Here are 2 questions that I frequently ask my husband, but what's the difference in meaning? Number 1, does this dress suit me? And number 2, does this dress fit me? And yes, I said suit, not sweet, suit. We pronounce suit with the long oo, as in boot, suit. Okay, we use the verb suit to ask about how attractive an item of clothing, an accessory, or even a hairstyle makes a person look. If someone says, wow, those jeans really suit you, they're saying those jeans look good on you. You look attractive wearing them. We use fit to talk about the size and shape of something. For example, you can have that t-shirt. It doesn't fit me anymore. It's too big or too small for my body. You'll often hear people say something fits well or nicely. And I love the idiomatic expression to fit like a glove, which means to fit perfectly. Oh, and I can't be on this topic and not mention go with. We use this phrase with the meaning of combine well. That bag goes really well with those shoes. Your bag matches your shoes, or your bag combines well with your shoes. They look good together. It's a vibe. Okay, let's move on to number 4. We have mind and matter. Now, these 2 verbs can cause a lot of confusion if we mix them up. What is the difference between these 2 sentences? Which one are you likely to say more often? I don't mind. I don't matter. So we usually use mind in questions and negatives. I don't mind means it's not a problem for me. For example, I don't mind doing the washing up. I'm happy to do it. Or we don't mind the noise from the traffic. It doesn't bother us. And in the question form, it can be used to make a polite request. Would you mind taking me to the airport? Notice how we can use a noun or the ing verb after mind. We also often use not mind to say that we are happy with any options offered to us. For example, do you fancy going out for dinner or should we stay in? I don't mind. I'd be happy doing either. And what about the second sentence? I don't matter. I really hope you never say this. If something matters to you, it's important to you. So if you say, I don't matter, you're saying, I'm not important. I recommend memorizing these 2 phrases together. I don't mind, it doesn't matter. We use matter to reassure someone that something isn't important. Oh no, I forgot to buy the milk. It doesn't matter, we can do without it. Now, rather confusingly, you can also use the expression never mind here with the same meaning. And one final point here, don't mix I don't mind up with I don't care. If used with the wrong tone of voice, I don't care can make you sound angry or disinterested. Compare the responses to the question. What do you fancy for dinner? I don't mind. I'd genuinely be happy with anything you make for me. I don't care. That means leave me alone. I don't want to have to think about this right now. I'm too busy. The difference is quite clear. Okay, number 5. We're going to take a look at 2 verbs with very different meanings that sound ridiculously similar. Wonder and wander. Can you hear the difference? I pronounced wonder with the O as in wonder with the vowel sound in up. Wonder. Lots of speakers in the north of England will use the vowel sound, like in put. Wonder. Wander, spelt with an A, is pronounced with the short O vowel, like in October and hot. Wander. Wonder, wonder. Can you hear the difference? But what do they mean? Well, wonder is a very useful verb which means to ask yourself something you wish you knew the answer to. I wonder what Diego's thinking right now. In fact, I know what he's thinking. It's his dinner time. We're nearly at the end of the lesson. Or, I wonder what Will's bought me for my birthday. Wonder has nothing to do with wonder. Wander means to walk around a place with no set plan or purpose, like we wandered around the narrow streets of Venice for hours. Or the very famous line from the William Wordsworth poem, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Let's use them both in a sentence. I wonder where Diego wanders when Will and I are working. Next, we have fall off, fall over, and fall down. I cannot count the number of times that a student has told me they've fallen down their bike or fallen over the stairs. These are incorrect. Let's clear this one up once and for all. We use the verb fall when we suddenly drop from the position we are in towards the ground. We have a fight with gravity and gravity wins. Fall off can have an object, and this object is usually something we've been sitting on. For example, I fell off my bike, a horse, my chair, the roof. Oh, I hope not. Fall over is when you suddenly drop to the ground from a standing or upright position, and it doesn't need an object. I fell over and banged my knees. It doesn't need an object, but it can have one. For example, the dog fell over the cliff. Fall down is most commonly used for stairs or steps. It can be used with other inclined objects like a hill or a slope. My brother fell down the stairs and broke his ankle. Okay, I think it's time for a quiz to see what you remember. I have 5 sentences for you to complete with the correct verb. Make sure you conjugate the verbs. Make sure you use them in the correct form. Keep track of your score and let me know how you did in the comments. Number 1, my baby's growing so fast, none of her clothes her anymore. Is it fit or suit? Did you say suit? I hope not, because the correct answer is fit. Her clothes are too small, they are no longer the right size or shape. Number 2, I forgot to pick up your parcel. I can get it on my way home. Do we say it doesn't matter or it doesn't mind? You should say it doesn't matter. Number 3, we spend hours the streets of Seville. I want you to use wonder or wander. Did you say wandering with the O sound? Well done. Wonder means to ask yourself a question. Number 4, have you seen that reel of the girl dressed up as a ghost falling the stairs? Is it off, over, or down? That's right, we fall down the stairs, just like we do with other inclined places like hills and slopes. And last one now, number 5. Sorry, I couldn't. I had my earphones in. Is it hear or listen to? It should be I couldn't hear you. The earphones blocked the sound of your voice. What is the opposite of interested? Uninterested or disinterested? The answer should be uninterested. So, if you're interested in something, you want to know about it. If you're uninterested, you don't want to know about something or you don't want to be involved in something. An example, my students seemed completely uninterested in the lesson about the history of taxation. Shock. They didn't want to learn about it. Now, here's the interesting bit. Disinterested isn't the opposite of interested, even though it looks like it is. At least, it's not usually. If you are disinterested, you are able to be fair and you don't favour one side or the other in a situation because you're not personally involved. It's similar to being neutral or impartial. For example, we need a disinterested party to help decide who should win the prize. We need someone who is not involved and is able to be fair. So, to recap, uninterested means not interested, and disinterested means neutral or impartial. Now, many native speakers use disinterested to mean uninterested, particularly in speech or in informal situations. This annoys a lot of people. They consider it to be incorrect, but it's fairly common. You'll hear it. Next, we have another pair of words that look like opposites, but are not. Famous and infamous. Listen to that difference in pronunciation. Famous has a schwa in the final syllable. Famous. And infamous has two schwas in the second and final syllables. Infamous. Famous. I know it's tempting to say infamous. I remember reading when I was younger, the first time I came across this word, and I naturally pronounced it infamous, but I was corrected. The stress for both words is on the first syllable. Famous. Infamous. But what about the meanings? Try to complete these sentences. Jordan Belfort is for running a stock market fraud operation. He's the guy from The Wolf of Wall Street. And the next sentence, Taylor Swift is a or an singer. Ready for the answers? He's infamous for stock market fraud, and Taylor Swift is a famous singer. So, what's the difference? Well, famous simply means known about by a lot of people, usually for something we consider positive. We have famous people, famous things, and famous places. We even have famous animals. Some examples: she became famous after winning an Olympic gold medal, or the Taj Mahal is famous for its beauty. Now, infamous also means well known, but for something bad, like Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, in our earlier example. It's similar to notorious. It can also be used for people, things, and places, and I guess animals as well. For example, Al Capone was an infamous gangster, or that house is infamous for having a grisly history. So, to recap, famous generally means known and celebrated. Infamous generally means having a bad reputation. All right, the next pair is one I get confused about sometimes when I'm writing. Complimentary and complimentary. They're pronounced the same, but one is spelt with an I and the other with an E. Complimentary with an I has two main meanings. One is expressing praise or approval. That's not too hard to remember, as the noun and verb form compliment is also spelt with an I. An example: he was very complimentary about your presentation. But complimentary with an I also means free. I love complimentary things. For example, the hotel offers a complimentary breakfast for guests. Now, complimentary with an E refers to two people or things that work well together, either because they are useful together or visually appealing. The two elements can be quite different, but they enhance each other. For example, complementary colours like blue and orange offer a strong contrast, yet they look great side by side. Another example, they have complementary skills. She's creative and he's highly organised. So to recap, complimentary with an I means expressing praise or free. Complimentary with an E means work well together. Our next pair of words is really challenging for English learners. We have economic and economical. Or is that economic and economical? See, the confusion starts even with the pronunciation. You can pronounce both words with either an E or an E sound at the beginning. Economic, economic, economical, economical. I wish I could tell you which pronunciation I use all the time, but honestly, I flip between the two. I grew up with different teachers using the different pronunciations and I just never really thought about it and used both. Try them out, see which one feels more natural to you. But the pronunciation isn't the trickiest part. The meaning is. Let's complete these sentences. 1. This country is facing serious problems. And my washing machine is very... So in the first gap, we need economic or economic. So in the second gap, of course, we need economical or economical. I'm going to stick with the E pronunciation here. Economic is an adjective related to the economy, money, business, or trade, and it's usually followed by a noun. For example, London is an important economic centre in Europe. Economical means not wasteful, something or someone that doesn't waste time, money, or energy. For example, this car is more economical than that one. It uses less fuel. So, economic means related to business and money. Economical means not wasting time, money, or energy. All right, the next pair is distinct and distinctive. Distinct means clearly different or separate. For example, the Adidas and Nike logos are clearly distinct from each other. They are clearly different from one another. Distinct also means easy to notice. For example, there was a distinct smell of smoke in the air. I could easily smell it. Distinctive means having a special quality that makes something easy to recognize or remember because it's different from other things. For example, John has a very distinctive laugh. It's easy to recognize it's John even if I can't see him because I can hear his very unique laugh. It stands out. Let's compare now. Some examples. The UK has many distinct accents. Each accent is clearly different from any other. And she has a distinctive accent. The features of her accent make it easy to recognize where she's from. Is that clear? I hope so. Let's move on to our final pair, classic and classical. If something is classic, it's high quality, lasting, and often seen as one of the best examples of its kind. It's often used for books, films, clothes, and cars. For example, she's really into classic cars and has several from the 1940s. Or, that black dress is classic. It'll never go out of style. We can also use it more playfully. For example, he left his phone at home again. Classic Julian. This is typical of Julian, as he is always forgetting things. We use classical to refer to traditional music from the mid-18th to the early 19th centuries, like pieces by Mozart and Beethoven. An example: I love listening to classical music when it's played live. We also use classical to talk about something that has a long tradition. Classical ballet, for example. And classical refers to things related to ancient Greek or Roman culture. For example, the museum in Athens has many classical sculptures. Or he's a classical scholar. He studies ancient Rome. So, to recap, classic means high quality and timeless, or one of the best examples of its type. Classical tends to refer to things related to traditional culture, ancient Greece and Rome, and certain music. Okay, we've covered our 12 confusing adjectives, so now it's time for a quiz. Make sure you share your answers in the comments section. There are 3 questions. Are you ready? Number 1. The wine is to the rich flavour of the cheese. Is it complementary with I or complementary with E? It should be complementary with an E because the wine and cheese go well together. Number 2, we watched a film from the 1950s last night. It's still brilliant. Classic or classical? It should be classic. The film is high quality and timeless. And finally, number 3. We need a or an judge who can make a fair decision. Is it uninterested or disinterested? Disinterested is correct here. It means the judge is neutral and fair. Our first pair is to end up versus to end in. My students often mix these up and struggle to know when to use each one. So let's do a little test. Use ended up or ended in to complete these sentences. It, disaster, and we walking home. You should have it ended in disaster and we ended up walking home. But why? Let's look at to end up first. This means to reach a final situation or place, often unexpectedly or unintentionally. Let's expand on our example a little. All of the buses were cancelled, so we ended up walking home. This is an example of an unexpected outcome. We didn't plan to walk. Here's another example. He studied engineering, but ended up in a completely different industry. End up tends to be followed by an ing verb, like walking, a phrase with a preposition, like in a completely different industry, or an adjective. Let's see an example with an adjective now. We got completely lost and ended up exhausted and frustrated by the whole thing. Now, to end in means to have something as a result. It's often used for negative situations or events and collocates strongly with words like disaster, divorce, failure, and tragedy. Here's an example. Her first marriage ended in divorce. End in doesn't always refer to something negative though. For example, the match ended in a draw. End in tends to be followed by a noun. So to recap, end up is about where you finish, literally or figuratively, often by accident, while end in is about how something concludes, often with a specific result. Now let's move on to our second pair. To look up versus to look for. Look up means to search for information using a specific source or tool, like a dictionary or a computer. For example, I often look up the meanings of new words in a dictionary. Or, I'm not sure what time the shop opens. I'll look it up on the website. Look up is a separable phrasal verb. This means the object can go immediately after up or between look and up. If the object is a pronoun, it has to go in the middle. Look it up. Look for means to search for somebody or something, often because you've lost or you need them or it. For example, can you help me look for my keys? Or, if you see John, tell him I'm looking for him. Unlike look up, look for is not separable. It's inseparable. The object must come after the whole phrasal verb. So, to look up means to search for information in a specific place, and to look for means to search for something or someone you've lost or need. For pair number 3, we have 2 phrasal verbs with take. To take down versus to take off. Both can mean remove, but they're used differently. Let's do a little test again. Complete the gaps with down or off. We usually take our Christmas decorations in early January and take your shoes and socks before entering the temple. We take down the decorations and take off our shoes and socks. We'll look at to take down first. My students don't tend to use this phrasal verb. They just use take off instead. We use take down for things that are high up or things that are fixed, like decorations or wall art. Our Christmas decorations are often both. Another example, we took down all the curtains when we were painting the room. We usually use to take off to mean to completely remove clothes, shoes, or accessories. For example, I always take off my jewellery before going swimming. Now, let's take a look at some 3-part phrasal verbs. To catch up on and to catch up with. If you catch up on something, you either bring yourself up to date with something or you do an action that you didn't have time to do earlier. For example, I need to catch up on some work. Catch up on is followed by an object which is a thing, not a person. However, we do say that you catch somebody up on something, and that means that you help bring someone else up to date on something. For example, can you catch me up on what happened while I was away? To catch up with means to reach the same level as a person who was ahead of you. For example, if you study hard, you'll catch up with the rest of the class. It also means to exchange news with someone you haven't spoken to for a while. For example, I love catching up with my old school friends. Catch up with is usually followed directly by a person. So, we use catch up on when we're behind and we want to get up to date. And we use to catch up with when we close a gap or reconnect socially. Pair number 5 is to bring up versus to grow up. Which of those verbs can you use to complete this sentence? I was in the countryside. Brought up or grown up? It should be brought up. Let's see why. To bring somebody up means to care for or raise a child until they're an adult. Often it involves teaching them how to behave and giving them certain values. It needs an object. For example, we wanted to bring up our children close to our extended family. This phrasal verb is often used in the passive form, to be brought up, like in our example sentence earlier. I was brought up in the countryside, or she was brought up by her grandparents. To grow up means to gradually develop from being a child into an adult, maturing physically and emotionally. An example, I grew up in the UK. To grow up is intransitive, meaning it doesn't take an object. We don't say, my parents grew me up in a small village. Instead, we'd say, my parents brought me up, or I grew up. And we don't use it in the passive voice. So this sentence is wrong. I was grown up in a small village. Incorrect. The correct version would be, I was brought up or I grew up. So to recap, to bring up means to raise a child. To grow up means to change from being a child into an adult. Our final pair is actually one phrasal verb, but it can be followed by different grammatical patterns. These make the meaning so different that it might as well be two phrasal verbs. I hear my students make mistakes with this verb all the time, so I had to include it. The verbs are to go on to do and to go on doing. If we go on to do something, we do something after completing something else. We move to the next stage or action. For example, after finishing his first novel, he went on to write several more. This means he completed one and moved on to the next. If we go on doing something, we continue with the same action. For example, he went on talking even though no one was listening, meaning he continued talking. Okay, I understand phrasal verbs are really challenging, so let's cement some of what you've learnt with a short quiz. There are 4 questions, and I want you to let me know your score in the comments. Ready for number 1? Complete the sentence. I need to catch up. What's been happening in my favourite TV show? Is it on or with? It's on. Catch up on your favourite TV show. You want to get up to date with the latest events. Second question. Complete this sentence. My attempt to swim across the English Channel ended failure and I had to be rescued by a boat. Up or in? That one is in. It ended in failure. That shows the result of the attempt, and it's followed by a noun, failure, which we often see after end in. Number 3. Is this sentence correct? James started as a receptionist and went on being the managing director. It is incorrect. We should say went on to be. He stopped being a receptionist and started something new when he became the managing director, probably after several other roles along the way. And our final question, number 4, complete the sentence. Please take all the photos and posters before you move out. Is it down or off? It should be take down. The photos and posters are most likely on the wall, so we need to take them down. How did you do? Let me know your score out of 4 in the comments. And I'm really interested to hear which of these phrasal verbs you find most confusing. And there you have it, 60 confusing words finally untangled. Now, if your brain is buzzing, that's totally normal. This was a really big lesson. But the good news is you don't have to memorize all of it right now. You can review all of these words whenever you like in the free 60 Confusing Words ebook. It contains all of the information we've covered today, plus lots of extra information and quizzes. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code there and let me know how you find it. I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I can't wait to see you for the next one. Mwah.